All right, this video will give you some homework hints for numbers 10, 12, and 20 on your page 158 assignment. All right, so let's start by taking a look at number 10. Notice on number 10 these two arrowheads. Remember what that means. That means that's how we indicate that two lines are parallel. So we have parallel lines being cut by a transversal. Do you see how this line touches two other lines? And that's called a transversal. Okay, so the two angles that have been labeled here, notice that they are on alternating sides of the transversal. Okay, and also I'm just going to shade in all this region would be the interior of the two lines that are being cut by the transversal. So if this is the interior, that means that 3n minus 45 and the 2n plus 15 degree angle lie on the exterior. So what we have here are two angles that are on alternating sides of the transversal. They're on the exterior of the two lines being cut by the transversal. So they are called alternate exterior angles. Okay, remember, when parallel lines are cut by a transversal, alternate exterior angles are congruent. So that means their measures are equal. All you need to do now is set these two expressions equal to each other, solve for n, and then since the problem asks you to find the measure of angle PQR, okay, that's this angle right here, PQR, okay, what you'll probably want to do is, after you solve for n, put it right here, find out what the measure of this angle is, and notice that PQR is its supplement. We have a linear pair of angles here. They are supplementary. So after you find the measure of this 2n plus 15 degree angle, subtract that from 180 and you'll have your measure of angle PQR. All right, moving on to number 12. We have this diagram, and look what we're told about the diagram. It says, in the parking lot shown, the lines that mark the width of each space are parallel. All right, so all these lines are parallel. So I have this line parallel to this line, parallel to this line, parallel to this line. And notice we have this line that's intersecting all of those parallel lines, so that line would be a transversal. Okay. We're given the measure of angle 1 is 2x minus 3y degrees, and we're given that the measure of angle 2 is x plus 3y degrees. Okay, notice we're being asked to find x and y. All right, I have two unknowns. The only way to solve for two unknowns is to write a system of two linear equations. So let's use what we know about angle pairs to see if we can come up with two different equations in x and y. All right, let's start with the measure of angle 1. The measure of angle 1, well, let's look over here. Do you see this 60 degree angle and this angle right here? Don't they form a pair of vertical angles? So they are congruent to each other. All right, so if this is a 60 degree angle, then this angle is a 60 degree angle. I hope you can read that all right. And then notice the 60 degree angle and angle 1 occupy corresponding positions in their little group of 4 angles, so they're corresponding angles. All right, so that brings us to our first equation. Remember, when parallel lines are cut by a transversal, corresponding angles are congruent. So that means the measure of this angle, angle 1, which is 2x minus 3y degrees, is equal to this angle, is equal to 60 degrees. Okay, now let's write a second equation that involves the measure of angle 2. Notice my parallel lines cut by a transversal. Well, angle 2 and the 60 degree angles are on the same side of the transversal and on the interior of the two lines being cut by the transversal, so they are same side interior angles. When parallel lines are cut by a transversal, same side interior angles are supplementary. All right, so they total 180. So if this angle is 60 degrees, that means the measure of angle 2 must be 120 degrees. 180 minus 60 is 120. All right, so that gives you your second equation. So right here, you're going to write that the measure of angle 2, that x plus 3y is equal to 120 degrees. Now that we have a system of two linear equations and two unknowns, you can solve that system using either substitution or elimination. All right, let me give you a couple of hints for number 20. The directions say, state the theorem or postulate that is related to the measure of the angles in each pair, and then find the angle measure. All right, so number 20 is asking us to find, or is giving us that the measure of angle 1 is 7x plus 17, or sorry, 7x plus 15, and the measure of angle 2 is 10x minus 9. So take a look at your diagram. Here is angle 1, here is angle 2. Notice we have a pair of parallel lines being cut by a transversal, okay? This is the line that touches the two parallel lines, so we call that the transversal. Notice also that angles 1 and 2 are on alternating sides of that transversal, and angles 1 and 2 are on the exterior of, here would be the interior of the two parallel lines, so angles 1 and 2 are on the exterior. All right, so what theorem or postulate relates those two angles? Well, we have a theorem that says when parallel lines are cut by a transversal, alternate exterior angles are congruent. So on your paper for number 20, you'll want to write that theorem down first, that whenever parallel lines are cut by a transversal, we can conclude that alternate exterior angles are congruent, okay? And then below that, write your work, okay? Since these alternate interior angles are congruent, take their measures, 7x plus 15, 10x minus 9, set them equal to each other, and solve for x, okay? But once you're solved for x, remember, you're not done at that point. You need to take that x and plug it back in either one of these expressions. It doesn't matter which one, because remember, these angles are congruent, so you're going to get the same thing. So put x in either here or here, do the arithmetic, and find the measure of angle 1 and 2.